Hey guys, this is the first tutorial for Hope and Glory Starfighter Tuts. Most of you know me as Hilton. I'm a Starfighter pilot. It's one of my main activities in SW Tour, and I wanted to share with you guys how I do it, how you can get into it, why you should get into it, and how you can have a great time playing it. The first thing I'm going to do in this tutorial is go over everything that you need to know before you start a match, basically. What each of the ships are like, what they do, which ones you should spec into depending on your playstyle and so on. This is a new character that I've created. It's level 1. It's never done a Starfighter match before. It's never even killed an NPC. It's got the small amount of experience you get from the first quest there. That's about it. So yeah, let's jump ahead. So accessing Starfighter. There's a small button here. You see it's like an A-wing next to your minimap. You just click that and that'll bring up the Starfighter UI there. So the first thing we notice is there's 5 tabs here. I'm going to go through each one of those and explain what they mean and what they do. So we've got ships, obviously. That's the ship that you're flying. You'll see there's four types of ships here. You've got scouts, which is what I predominantly fly, and most of my future tutorials will be based on scouts. In Pacific, just to be specifically the Nova Diver there. Scouts are fast and agile, obviously, within the name. They're kind of like the first people into a fight when the game starts. They generally, these will be the people that capture the initial bases and then defend them till the bigger ships can get in there to hold off the rest. Apart from that, during the fights, like halfway through a battle, you kind of spend most of your time picking off the stray people that are maybe flying towards their objectives, and they're basically, if they're on their own, they're out of the pack. You'll fly along and kill them. You're quite close range in the ship. I think the max range is 6,000 meters for any of the guns. But yeah, they're really fun to play if you've played other form of flight simulators and you always favoured the speedy, nippy ships. These would definitely be more of your style. Next up, we have the Strike Fighters. Strike Fighters are pretty much like X-wings, if I was to sum that up with other Star Wars games. They're not as fast as scouts, but they are pretty agile. They shoot further. I think it's maximum about 10,000 meters. They're a lot more tankier, but they do turn slower. I think in a dogfight between a strike fighter and a scout should win 9 times out of 10. They're very strong missile locking ships, so if you're the kind of person that finds it hard to aim at things, like in first person shooters, and you generally have a bad time at those, these are great for that. Yeah, that'll be the strike fights in a nutshell. We've got bombers. Now bombers are fairly new to the game, and they're a bit broken at the moment. I think most people will complain they're overpowered. I personally think that's lack of knowing how to deal with them. They're tanky support ships. They're great at holding objectives. As you see here, they've got like missile sentry drones and things. So they fight by spawning AI controlled thing. Can't even think of the words. AI controlled stuff. There we go. We'll stick with stuff. Let's speed this up. So yeah, the sentry drones will automatically lock onto enemy players. That is great for defense. You've got repair drones, which is one of the only forms of repair in Starfighter, making them the single real healing ship. They're the slowest at turning. They're hideously slow at travelling from A to B, but once they've got their feet in the ground, they're very hard to move. I mean, two bombers on one objective, for example, would take 6 people on voice comms, making a dedicated attack, a very calculated attack to remove them. They're incredibly hard. And then last and finally, we've got gunships. Gunships are your snipers of the game. They can shoot up to 15,000 meters. And yeah, they have to charge up, and they're very immobile. Again, they're not super fast. They're very much like the bomber, except unlike the bomber, they don't have tank. They're pretty weak. Scouts are extremely efficient at killing them. The rest, strike fighters, it's not uncommon for a gunship to one-shot a strike fighter, maybe 2 shots a bomber. They're great against bombers because they can take out the turrets and mines without being in range of said objects. Yeah, that's basically the roles there. So you've got your nippy fast, capture everything, can kill anybody out in the way. You've got your strike fighter, which is your main damage dealer. Then you've got your bombers, which are kind of support. And finally your gunships, which are snipers. Now next up, we're going to move over to components here. Just set the overdivers as what I'll be working with. Now, components are unlocked via ship requisition, which you gain here. Sorry, just stepping back a bit, I forgot to mention something. Fleet requisition can be used to unlock extra ships in future. It's the hardest to gain requisition. You'll mainly only really get that from weeklies and dailies. It's not so great to grind out. Right, back onto components. So components unlocked using shipwreck, and each component will very much change the way your ship flies in battle. There's many different ways to set up your ship. For example, I favour high evasion, so I'd always take things like lightweight armour there, for example. And or you could potentially just go for more health and things like that. It will change your ship. You can make your ship faster and hit harder. You can make it more tanky, and it is nice to kind of find some guides online. There are lots of websites which are linked below, which offer builds on different craft in the game. But it's one of those things that's better to find your playstyle. And when you're fighting, you'll be like, I always get one-shotted. I always seem to get one-shotted by people. How can I fix this? I know I maybe change my shields to high evasion, or change my shield to transfer 20% of shield power to the engine. Well, actually that would kill you faster, but you can kind of customize it to how you fight there. But as I said, I will be playing the ship through future tutorials, and I'll be talking about different components more in detail then, and maybe other ships as well, depending on how popular this series is and how much you guys are actually getting anything out of it. Cosmetic, pretty self-explanatory there. It's mostly cash shop items. You can get loads of bits cheap off the Galactic market, but it's mainly just colours, fancy colours, changing stuff around. Don't think I've really got anything unlocked. No, I haven't done anything on this character. But yeah, just make your ship look fancy. You can change engine controls and all that kind of shebang. And last and finally, crew. Crew comes in with two parts that are important to you. So for example, if you look at B3G9 here, they all come with two passive abilities which will change how your ship functions in battle. You have the reload cooldowns there, weapon accuracy there. They have an active co-pilot ability, and what this means is when you're actually in a fight, and you'll have 4 skills down at the bottom, which I'll go into detail next video where I'm actually in space. Your crew will give you the 4th ability, depending on when they're in the co-pilot, and this can really change a battle. For example, so like at the moment by default I've got Ashy, Slicer's Loop, which targets enemy computer. Basically they can't regen energy for their weapons and stuff for 6 seconds. Or if I switch to B3G9, I can now repair myself in fights, or give myself more evasion, and yeah, decrease their maneuverability. Crew's unlocked with fleet requisition, so you will unlock it through that. You can also unlock some you can unlock them for free with your class. So a consular, for example, will get Quais and Fez for free, or you can buy them for 1,200. And last and finally for the ship view interface, we have the launch selection. There's three ways to launch Starfighter. There's battle for single play, group battle, that will key you and your other group members. And then at the top here, we have our Starfighter tutorial level, which will start that straight away, which I highly recommend everyone does, but I will be going through that later, as I keep saying. And very finally, something I want to go over quickly, Starfighter controls. We want to go to preferences, Starfighter, and one of the most important things you can toggle really is show detailed Starfighter weapon tooltips, which will show you show you like here, I can actually see quite a lot of spec there on what I'm actually dealing with. Obviously the rate of fire, my accuracy at certain ranges, firing arc, how much weapon draw power it's going, and that really does help later on when you want to start getting a bit more advanced. You can see without it, it'll be very basic. Let's toggle that back on, and then you really do want to get familiar to your Starfighter key bindings. The most important ones to note that I recommend you change is your modification, your weapon power. This works. People that have ever played Star Trek games would be really familiar with this. I can't think of many other games. I know it has existed in other games, but off the top of my head, I can't think of them. And it's you're converting the weapon, your ship power. So you'll increase your weapon, for example, power to weapons, and that will give you 10% more damage, and also increase the regen at what you power at. Likewise, shields, you'll have 10% more shield plus regen faster. Engine power, you'll move 10%. When you add 10% onto one ability, you minus 10% from the others. So it's very important to get used to it and get the right time. Like, you don't want to start a battle with your power still in engines after you've used engine power to get to the battle, because you'll be dealing 10% less damage, and you'll have 10% less shield power. So they're important, and you want to keep them on things that you're moving your mouse buttons if you've got them, stuff that's easy to access. If you're good at hitting the F1 to F4 keys normally, then I guess that would be great for you. But that's it. Then you have weapons and abilities. This will be your cast that you can do in fight, like your co-pilot ability, as I was going over a minute ago. The other abilities come from components. I should have mentioned that earlier. But yeah, your systems, for example. This one gives me an ability, boost the recharge, regenerates 5% engine power per 6 seconds, and you can change those to stuff that will actually help you in battle. Oops, got the wrong thing. Where are we? Preferences, Starfighter. Movement, again, I just keep on default. This is very similar to most shooters, if you've played any before, even if you've played things like War Thunder or other arcadey style piloting games, flight simulators, I guess you could call them. This will feel extremely at home. You can edit it further, but that's it. The only other thing that you really need to learn is targeting. The only ones I really use, 3 looks nice to try and see where people are if you need to. But I use tab, obviously, quite a lot, which cycles the nearest enemies, and E, which will do. It says under cursor, but it's actually like the one that's the enemy that's most in front of you. So if you just want to shoot somebody that's in front of you, just tap E and you'll get that. Apart from that, that's pretty much it. It would be good to learn all these. If I'm honest, I've never really used anything from there because I don't use my numpad. But yeah, I think that's it for this video. Don't want to drag it on too long. In the next one, I'll be entering the tutorial and just doing that with you guys and explaining some other tips and tricks within that environment where I'm not being shot at by enemies. So thanks for watching. Hope you learned something from this, and yeah, I'll see you soon. Bye bye.